Okay, Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome to our next Entrepreneur in Conversation series session. We are extremely excited to have Kasif Shahid join us today. Kasif is a veteran of the digital banking and digital credit area in Pakistan and globally. He's got 25 years of experience, having led the digital banking team for ABN AMRO in Singapore, and then for MCB in Pakistan. So I've got to kick it off with a very exciting news, actually. I mean, that just broke yesterday, so timing is very auspicious to have you, Kasif. Congratulations. So Finja, if you, for those who don't know, raised $9 million of a $10 million round that was announced yesterday. And I think what's notable there to see is the roster of investors, the existing investors who were already in Finja, including some of the very well-known names in fintech investing globally, re-upped their commitments, and then another new fintech fund joined actually. So thanks for bringing these investors to Pakistan and sharing their, our compelling story with them. And I hope through your talk today, you can move us Pakistanis to partake in your journey and see some of the upside. So congratulations again. Love to hear that story on on this financial close, and maybe just open the floor to you to share your story and the great opportunity in fintech in Pakistan.
Thank you for the kind introduction, Salim. Most of you don't know, but we went to school together in HSN.
My God, 35 years ago.
That's another lifetime. It's fantastic to reunite.
Absolutely.
Yes, it's a great day for us, and we hoped that we would arrive at that day in the year 2020. And the reason is, this is the most, tumultuous year for most businesses. So, being able to raise money, being able to survive and thrive, the pandemic year is fantastic. And it also shows really, the medium and the long-term potential that Pakistan has. It's not just about Finja. You're the fifth, sixth largest country. And the state of digital financial services is still nascent. So glass जो है वो अभी भी सारा खाली है. And these types of investments actually make that point. The other thing that you mentioned, that we are happy about is that most of these investors are blue chip investors in the fintech world. They invest all over in the emerging markets, and they have come to Pakistan the first time. So they've never been to Pakistan. So actually, when that when funds come in and invest the first time in a frontier country like ours, a lot of due diligence goes in, and now people can't come to Pakistan. So how do they go out and do that? That's complex. So now when that has happened, the secondary investments that the VC ecosystem will make, the ones that have invested and the ones who are their friends, is going to become that much easier. And, we are super happy that, Finja could sort of make some headway in that for us and for everyone.
Oh, that's absolutely fantastic news. So look, I think maybe we step back a little bit and set the stage. I mean, look, financial inclusion, just for the purposes of the audience, is a huge opportunity in emerging markets. I mean, if you look at the statistics, it's like, if I'm not wrong, Kasif, correct me. I mean, there's like one global population, about 1.7 billion, that's unbanked or doesn't have access to financial services. And 3/4 of these are actually in essentially South Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa. And if you look at Pakistan, which is a country well north of 220 million people, only about 20% of the adult population has a bank account, and only about 2% of the adults, I've seen numbers between 2 and 4%, have access to credit. So when you look at such low penetration levels in a country which is so well connected from a it's a digitally literate country in the sense that, they have phones with data access and so on and so forth. Upwards of 70 million, phones there. And, with the limitations of the legacy banks, this is a gold mine. I mean, unlike anywhere else in the world. So why is it that we're not seeing, I don't know, forget about 10 more Finjas, why aren't we seeing 100 more Finjas in different areas? I mean, you're in the credit vertical, but there's some companies in the wallet side of things, but there's so much to do. So can you set the stage and maybe, inspire a revolution here, perhaps?
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Look, I mean, you're spot on, but the thing that you haven't mentioned is that all of the guys have now smartphones which are connected to the internet. So the funny situation is that you've got folks who are connected to the internet, who've got a smartphone, but they're running around, paying bills in cash and, moving money in an analog way. So why, question one would be that why is that? And B, how can we fix that? And how quickly can we be in a brand new paradigm? So why is that? Because if startups go out and solve big problems, and we need to understand the context of why is it that everybody is not banked in the emerging markets, but people are banked in the developed markets? The villain is the branch banking model. And I won't spend too much time on it. It sounds like philosophy, but that's what it is. Branch banking model is the model that works on an exclusionary approach. It is the only business in the world which operates at that mass scale, which looks at their customers and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to judge you how much you're worth before I'm going to let you in my branch. That's what she does. That's what the branch manager does. Why does she do that? Because her space is limited and her time is limited, and she can only work with people that will make more money for them, meaning leave the money in the bank and never show up, or take a loan and never show up. That model on purpose has pushed the emerging market, 4 billion people out of these branches for the last 100 years. That's why poor people or less privileged would go to a dentist, they go to a doctor, but they would not get into a bank branch because it's simply condescending. People judge them on their self-worth, on the shoes they're wearing. And then there is this pile of paperwork, that is shoved down their throat. So, hey, that's why people are not banked. But guess what? Now all of that is changed. Nobody has to come to a branch. Pandemic killed the branch, right? Now business models are digitally onboarded, and so many other things are happening. But it's like the horse or the elephant feels that it's still in shackles, but it's not. So the business model for retail banking is turned on its head now. And now the best customer is not the one that leaves money with you and never shows up. Who's the best customer? The guy that comes in and does all sorts of transactions in you and dips on your database all the time and generates data. That's the customer. He doesn't have to have a lot of money. Because the business model is changed, I think I'm trying to answer your why. Now is the how. The how is that you create digital onboarding processes and you create value propositions as strong as WhatsApp or Facebook. So you don't need to train people or teach them that why they need to keep their money digital. The digital business case is already made. If you don't go out and move money and receive money digitally, you can die. Your business will die, right? So the how is very clear. People already have the means and all of that. And the time, that's the best part, man. I think that all of this will happen in the next 3 years. I think we are at a cusp of a transformation in Pakistan, which is much bigger than what we experienced from 2001 to 2010. And just to put things in perspective, Pakistan in 2001, and people who hear me would say, come on, say something new, but this is so compelling, that Pakistan in 2001 was like 137th country in the world in terms of landlines. By 2010, we had 100 million feature phones, and we became the 6th or the 7th largest country in terms of hand phones. Now in 2012-13, Pakistan was way down in the internet charts. Now Pakistan is 6th, 7th, 8th largest country in terms of number of people connected to the internet, and it's growing. So that is really, the leverage point that we are going to go out and change behavior, and things can be very different in the next 3 years. But the startups and the fintechs would have to create the glue between the incumbents and the businesses and the customers. And that's why the startups and the fintechs and the regulators and some other parts of the ecosystem are so important, which are coming together. But the point is that the social change that we are going to experience and the transformation that we are going to experience in a much shorter time, this time not 10 years as in internet and feature phones, but 3 to 5 years in digitizing money and payments and everything else around it, would be a much bigger change. And it's coming in a shorter period of time. It's going to swell our economy if we do this right.
So, this is great. And just for the financial, markets, ecosystem, could you just lay, out the lay of the land, on the spectrum of, going from, I don't know, remittances to payments to, meaning the digital wallets, to the lending products, to the asset management and trading and so on and so forth, because they're, fintech can mean many things to many different people. Just give an overview of that, and if you want to use any of your slides, we're happy to help with that.
Okay.
So if you can just lay down the the groundwork for that, and then say like why you picked the vertical that you have chosen to go into, and where do you see the opportunities next for people to sort of incubate ideas.
Okay, thank you. So I wanted to impress Salim, so which I don't really do for people, but I've put up few slides, and this is just to get you guys excited about the opportunity. I don't want to spend too much time here because maybe you have more accurate information than this. My assistant and team picked it quickly, but I just want to sort of sensitize you to what's going on. So Saima, if you could take me to slide 2. We'll do this quickly, huh? So, slide 2 is showing you a few things. The first thing that it's showing you is that 2019, actually, there was less money. 2020, less money came into fintechs because of the pandemic, but except for the last quarter. And you could see this graph on the right bottom, which starts to show that there is a revival in the last quarter. The other thing that is starting to show is that only the mega deals, fintech mega deals, actually grew. So 2020, we had 97 mega deals as opposed to 2019. But you know what? Mega deals are only 5 or 7% of the overall fintech deals, right? So the mega deals grew, but that means that series B, C, and D grew, but A and C, etc. People were wait and see. And why not? VCs are selfish people, because they need to see their upside. And if they think, the best companies are the ones that are going to survive the pandemic and come out, then they wait for you on the other side of the pandemic. And hence no funding there. But, the exciting thing is to see India. And I want you to, India is 5 times our size, but look at the money that has come into India. $9.3 billion came to India, but it's like 5 billion or so less than what came in 2019. But look at the size of that investment. So if India is 5 times Pakistan, we should get 5 times less than this. And that's a lot of money, guys. Okay, then I at some point in the talk, I want to talk to you about embedded finance and how most money is going to go there and what that is. So Salim can make some time there, but I don't want to stop here now. The other part that I wanted to speak to you guys about, and this is, these numbers are not accurate. They are picked up by my team in a few hours, okay? So they're directional. Don't get hung up if I miss something. Just, try and catch the drift, right? So here's the thing. In 2020, Pakistan seems to be bringing in more money than 2019, but the money to date is about $38 million. In the startup fintech scene, but last year it was about 36. And then you can see the graph. But 76% of the capital coming in is coming in from international investors, which is a fantastic news. And then there are 29 VC companies of sorts that have invested in Pakistan. So, I think things are only going to get better from here. And I just thought I'd lay these two slides out for you up front. And I think I should stop now, go back to sleep.
Yeah, no, look, that's a very helpful perspective. So look, if we can just focus on the digital lending side of things, I mean, you've quantified that to be a $10 trillion market for Pakistan. So if you can just walk through the plumbing of that a little bit so people can get a perspective on how realistic that number is, because it sounds like a big number. And even with your, transacting over 100 billion rupees of transactions with 50,000 loans, it's not even a drop in the bucket yet. So, it's a massive, massive opportunity. So just walk us through your thesis on that, and then, therein lies the opportunity for someone to sort of build a business in.
So what we do is that we go to slide 4. Yeah, slide 4 is it's just 1 minute slide. It shows you really what are the foundational blocks on which Finja is built. And if you want to do a big play, it helps if you are if अगर आपने वर्दी पहनी हुई है, अगर आपके पास licenses हैं, and it's important. It was important
Saima,
for
the
us.
Next page. Sorry to interrupt. Saima, the next page.
Saima, slide 4. It's got these. This one.
The NBFI license and the e-money license. Yeah.
यार ये इंग्लिश में बात करते हैं. ये बड़ा जरूरी है कि आप एक पायरेट शिप से somewhere along your evolution आप एक नेवल शिप में जाएं, एक पायरेट से एक नेवी शिप बने. और उसके वो क्यों जरूरी है? वो इसलिए जरूरी है कि जब पैंडेमिक हुआ था तो हुआ ये कि कस्टमर्स ने और बिजनेसेस ने नेक्स्ट लेवल की डिजिटाइजेशन मांगनी शुरू कर दी फ्रॉम द इनकम्बेंट्स. And incumbents, being banks, obviously could not create that level of digitization, and the businesses would simply shut down, or the customers won't be able to do, what they did otherwise in the pandemic. So they appeared that gap, and in that gap, the banks figured out that the only way for them to upgrade their offers is to partner with fintechs that actually have licenses. So if you are a fintech and you are regulated by the same entities that the banks are, the folks in the banks have greater confidence to partner with you. That's just how banks work. They're so risk averse, right? And then they partner. So one of the great things that have happened for us is that our ability to partner the ecosystem, including the banks, have really increased since we've got these 2 licenses. We have 2 licenses. One license allows us to take deposit and own a consumer-facing brand. We are the first entity that's operating in a pilot with that. And that means I can take deposit and the customer sees Finja. That also means I'm on all IBFT rails, etc. You can go to any bank, transfer money to me, so on. The other license I have is a license where Finja can go out and lend. And this is the license under the SCCP. And then we have a pilot to do sandbox in a crowdfunding structure. So these are these 3 licenses, pilots and otherwise, on which we are built on. So I thought I'd get that out of the way. Now,
how did you build the business in the absence of these? I mean, sorry to interrupt, but I think one of the questions that keeps coming up with our own sort of NIC cohort is that how do you build this till you're able to go get these licenses?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Okay, so different approaches can be taken. जो गलत approach है, मैं समझता हूँ, वो ये है कि आप sidelines पे बैठे रहें और आप licenses के लिए apply करें और अपनी destiny regulators को दे दें और कहें जब license मिलेगा तो मैं खेलूंगा. ये एक, this is what victims do, right? You never do that. What you do is that you try and play on the outside of the licenses and try to create value and credentials so that the regulator gets interested in you. So what Finja did was, and obviously, We have experience. We've been doing this, for 20 years plus. So what we did was that we went and partnered with a bank called Finca Microfinance Bank, and we created a mobile wallet called SimSim and a product called Finja Business that was actually the SimSim wallet was co-owned between us and the bank. That means the brand was shared, and whatever money that made was divided between us and the bank 60-40. We did all the tech, we did all the work, but we were built on top of a banking platform, and we were a branchless partner. So we became the super agent of an existing bank in the branchless banking space. We took that bank to the regulator and said that this bank needs branchless banking and we will be their super agents. So if you're a super agent of a bank, you can go out and do many things on behalf of the bank, like you can bring customers on board, do KYC, do anti-money laundering, make engagements with other agents, create partnerships, link with payment associations. So the clever thing that we did was that we took the shortest route to go to market, and that meant to work with existing regulatory frameworks that the regulator had. One of them was branchless banking, and in branchless banking, Finja could be a super agent of a bank. Before us, the only super agents were the telco companies Jazz and EasyPaisa that took the route of buying microfinance banks and then becoming their super agents. In a way, they circumvented the great regulation that the regulator came up with. Because when you buy a bank, you don't use their strengths to partner. You try and boss them around to do your thing. And that's exactly what the telcos did. And hence, whatever transpired later. Finja became the first entity to create a commercial partnership with a bank and launch under the branchless banking framework to be a super agent. Now, once we did that, several months later, State Bank started to come up with the EMI regulations, which are the electronic money regulations, and NBFC started to look at new age lending companies, but they could see the kind of work that we were doing. And then we became the first contenders for these licenses because we showed that we could actually act and scale and create transactions and not be a crybaby sitting on the sidelines and saying license milega to kuch karenge. So license.
What was your hook to the bank? I mean, how did you get in with Finca?
Look, that's a great question. I'm so glad you're asking these questions. I think that's going to make all the difference in the talk. The thing is that, and this is poetry, what I'm going to say now. What the apps have done to the smartphones is exactly what the fintechs are going to do to the banks. What the apps are to the smartphones is what the fintechs are to the banks. What does that mean? What that means is that the burden of innovation has moved from the big guys, from the platforms, which is iOS and Android, and this shit happened in 2008-9. And they said that whoever is going to create new apps are going to get 70% of the revenue, and we will get 30% of the revenue. What happened as a consequence is that most young people in the world and small companies started to produce apps. What has happened subsequently is unprecedented. Never in the history of mankind there has been a device which is more pervasive, and powerful than the smartphone. Why did it happen? Why is it that 5 billion people go to the loo with a smartphone now, which wasn't the case 12 years ago? Because all the smart people in the world started to produce apps, and as a consequence, were making 70% revenue. That's why the innovation broke through. So platforms, always remember this, cannot innovate to save their lives. They can't. Their job is to do the same thing all over again. It's called BAU. And, the stakes are so high, that they need to make more money every quarter to make the, analyst and the, stock market and everybody else happy. So they can't innovate. Innovate is risky business. So banks have to go out. Banks are platforms, of the highest, most dense order, right? Because you deal with money. Money is store value. Anybody can create a rule in a bank. Nobody can take it out. So it's a solid state organization. How will it innovate? It would have to go out and partner with fintechs. Fintechs will create value outside the bank. If an app is used, the revenue is shared. If it's a dud app, it doesn't bring iOS and Android down. The banks have to institutionalize the process of having many fintechs to play on top of them. And if any one of them makes scale, bank makes scale with them. The banks that are not going to go out and institutionalize the process of bringing fintechs on top, just like the apps, are going to go and end up like the BlackBerries and the Windows phone. Finca was one of the smarter banks to realize this, a few years ago, and it's now the most cutting-edge digital bank. When we started to work with Finca, they didn't even have an ATM or a debit card. Now they've done close to 500,000 loans in the field because they partnered with a fintech, and that's just one thing that do. So what I'm trying to tell you is, and this is important, guys, all incumbents in all industries are platforms. They cannot innovate to save their lives. A fintech and a startup will do fabulously well if they position themselves on top of that platform and solve their problem. And if they solve the problem, cost saves happen or money is raised, they get part of that. If nothing happens, there's no capital outlay for the bank. The regulators have understood it. The incumbents have understood it. And the startups and the fintechs have to initially focus on this play. It's very tempting to go out and create consumer-facing companies, but really the smart thing is to go out and be on top of an incumbent and help them solve a problem and scale as a consequence on play one. Finja knew that, and that's why we quoted Finca, and we were in the market and could build credentials.
When did you have that realization? I mean, you were digital banking head for one of the largest banks, not to single that out. So I've got to imagine that you burnt the midnight oil trying to make this happen, and then you decided to go out and do this. So to the extent that you can share that experience or that awakening, that might inspire others to leave and do the same.
Yes, I mean, your questions are...
We are going to be very unpopular with legacy banks, though, but eventually we'll bring them value. So through this discussion,
Yeah.
So I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that it's about inspiring the young guys, right? It's not about worrying about your friendship with banks, and I think anybody that you bring on this forum, their main audience is people that are trying to build companies and value. So so the banks can get all upset as they like, but the story is this: that I never worked harder in my life than the 5 or 6 years I was at MCB. And the reason for that was that we truly believed that from the MCB platform, we can go out and transform the country. We truly believed that MCB will be the first 50 million customer bank. But what I didn't realize was that the chairman, Mia Mansha, makes more money from banking and is more profitable than any other bank. Profit is a ratio play, but MCB would make in those days 24 to 28 billion rupees every year. And when you make that kind of money, remember this, you are invested in the status quo, because every year you make that kind of money and then you go out and you divest, and the bank becomes like a milking cow for you. And you're therefore not interested in going out and innovating and changing the status quo, because when the status quo changes, there's no guarantee that the incumbent that makes more money will still be on the top. So incumbent is always vested in the status quo. We knew this, in the early 2000s, right? I mean, sorry, 2010, 11, and 12, 13, but going out. So I'll give you one statistic. MCB in 2011 and 12 had 80% of all mobile transactions that were happening in the country. And we had that lead for 3 or 4 years. For 3 or 4 years, 80% of all blue actual mobile transactions happened in MCB. We had over 1 million paying users in 2011, and we had already launched wallets and all. But the bank did not want to transform the industry, and it couldn't come out and openly say that. And when I realized this, I realized that the biggest opportunity is with small size and medium banks, because they have very little to lose. The smaller the bank is, the more equalization play they will experience in this new world order, where the innovation is outside and the branches are not important. So I figured I'm stuck with the wrong structure, because this structure is the status quo. That allowed me the fortitude to step out on a principle that if you are a digital head and you can't protect the future orientation of the bank, you resign. So I resigned, without having any options, and that was one of the best things that happened to me. But I realized that the partnerships will have to happen with smaller banks, and the smaller the bank is, the bigger the opportunity is that they could partner. See, these partnerships are not vendor partnerships. These partnerships are based on equality. They're based on respect. They're based on that if money is unlocked, we will share. And there is a certain kind of psychology and leadership that's required to go out and do that. And, for the last 500 years, the banks have never created any partnerships. They create vendors. So there is a serious deficit in banks going out and realizing they are platforms, and they need to create these partnerships and then honor them. That's an issue as well. But I think the smaller the banks are, the more ready they are to partner with fintechs and startups. That's really the
right. So look, the pilot has, if we were, forgive me for calling, your effort a pilot, but it's much more than that. Has clearly proven out, loan loss ratios are lower than traditional banks, much more scalable model. The velocity of, disbursements can be far greater than the legacy model. So are you beginning to see the larger banks scramble to catch up, or are they still in denial and they're still sort of married to the legacy business models? And if they do jump in the place, like what type of competitive threats in terms of, penetration and market access and, customer acquisition costs and all of that they might pose for you for a startup?
Great question again. Look, what I talked about, because you took me back, was 2010 to 15. Now it's 2020 ending with the pandemic hopefully behind us. It's a completely different world. The banks, Finja doesn't have to go and convince a bank to partner with Finja anymore. Actually, Finja is oversubscribed with partnerships with banks because everybody needs to partner now. Because if they don't, their customers and businesses don't know what to do. So now I'll get into the lending part of things, that the question that you already asked. So, the thing is that there are multiple ways of building a lending business. So how Finja is building a lending business is that it's not carrying all its risk on its balance sheet, but it's partnered with multiple incumbents, where I'm becoming a hybrid and an off-balance sheet lender. What does that mean? That means that so far, Finja has gone out and deployed close to $10 million of loan throughput. Almost all of that is Finja's own money that we raised through equity. But now I've got Mezan Bank as my partner. I've got Faisal Bank as my partner. I've got PMIC, the entity that funds microfinance banks in this country, as my credit book partner. I've got EasyPaisa and Ant as my partner. What that means is that when I go out and give a 100 rupee loan, 80 rupees, up to 80 rupees of that can come from my banking partner, and 20 rupees comes from us, and we become a junior tranche, and the money made is split 60-40 generally. Junior tranche means that if someone returns 80 rupees, it goes to the bank first, right? So we put up, we get 40% because 20% is all the work that we do, which is disbursements, collections, credit, machine learning, AI, the whole shebang. And then 20% we get because we have 20% capital. But if you calculate the internal rate of return, IRR on 20% is in 50s, right? Because the rest of the 20% is coming from the work that we do. Now, the banks can't go out and clock these loans. And we'll come to that when you answer that question, because there's so much new work that's going on. They just give their credit book, and sitting at home, now they're getting 60% of the profit. And uh, and they can't go out and give loans anyways in the pandemic. They couldn't even give loans without the pandemic. So how would they give loans in the pandemic? So now the banks are now coming in and partnering with fintechs like Finja to go out and create this. The thing is that if I have to go and do a 1 billion rupee of lending, Finja just has to come up with 200 million rupees for that. That's a game change. To answer your question, the banks have never been more keen to partner with fintechs and startups post-pandemic. But the banks are banks, right? They would still, take time, but there's no selling required anymore. So we've got multiple.
So just a question, like, did you have to offer this first loss capital as part of your sales cycle? I'm sure you probably attempted to do, the sale or to manage their book without putting up your capital. But surely this made the, conviction in your own algos. You demonstrated that you have a high conviction on that. So without this first loss capital, do you think banks would have been just as amenable?
Yes. Look, the thing is that we like to put first loss capital because you're spot on. We want our skin in the game. And if you've got your skin in the game, it comforts the people in the bank more, right? Because everything is yours, right? The credit score is yours, AI machine learning is yours, the segment is yours, the relationship is yours, disbursements are yours, collections are yours. But if you don't, and that's really exactly what's happening with Ant. The Chinese regulators are trying to rein them in because Ant didn't put in any capital. And I suspect what's going to come out of it is that they're going to mandate Ant putting in capital and being a junior tranche. Because if you don't, you're not really playing the game. That's one reason. The second reason for us to do that is this, that under no circumstances Finja wants to be subservient to a bank. We don't do that. And the reason is that banks work on a different time scale and they can waste your time. So Finja in its design is completely independent. It's a digital bank before a digital bank in this country. I've got wallets, I've got IBFT rails, I'm fully plugged into OneLink, the payment plumbing. I have my own equity. I can lend, I can disperse, I can collect, I can go to any segment, I can do whatever I want. Once I go out and do that, if a bank wants to partner with me, they can come in and take up that loan. Is up to them. But if they don't, I'm going on anyways. That's the only way to work with banks. Otherwise they waste your time. Because Finja is a bigger fintech, we've got over 100 years plus experience in my management team. By the way, the average age of Finja is 26 and we are 175 people. But what I'm saying is that I'm a serious player with over 100 years of management team experience dealing and working and consulting with banks. So the structure that we've constructed is based on equality. But that is not necessary to go out and play like this. If you're a new fintech, you have many options now. Please understand that everything is becoming incrementally easier. The first platform that you have available are platforms like Finja. Who wants to go to a bank when you have a Finja? Because in Finja, you've got like-minded people. So when you come to Finja and say, hey, we've done this data analysis, we've got this segments, etc., partner with us, Finja will partner with you. And once Finja is partnered with you, then you can go out and partner with other banks, because banks look at very keenly these days what's happening with Finja. So to answer your question, it's not necessary to put your skin in the game. But if you don't, then what's going to happen is that the bank will start to drive you. And when the banks start to drive you, they go on their own pace. And, you don't want to give your control of your destiny to a 9,000 pound gorilla that doesn't know its head from its tail, right? That's the problem. But possible. What I suspect is that as months will roll by, the banks will come in and say, Finja, you know what? We don't want you to put 20%. We want to put 100% of our money because we've got shit loads of it. And you know what? The portfolios have no default. And at that point in time, I would have to say, okay, I will just take 20% and do all the work for this segment, and you can put in the money. And I will go out and invest in more riskier segments, our own money, create a vintage of that portfolios, and then bring the banks, right? So that's really the model that Finja is following.
So let's come back to the addressable market sizing exercise because we've just jumped right into the business model part of things. So maybe we can talk about the credit engine a little bit, and then you can also show that slide which had like what Finja does for the audience that is not up to speed on it. And my question with that is like, is your credit engine that you're using, is just that one engine, or do you actually segment it by the type of credit or customer that you're going after, or the market segment you're going after, and how much machine learning or tweaking is done on the algos over time to get better? Because I saw that initial loss ratios were slightly higher the first time around, and then market improvement. And so, what were the things that you did that caused that significant uplift?
Okay,
so
great.
A bunch of questions in there.
Yeah, no, but good one, because we have, we've been flirting on the sides of the business model. We haven't gotten in. So ये जरा गौर से सबको सुनना है. Finja दो तरह की lending करता है. Okay, I'm opening the genesis of what we do so that you guys can get ideas. Okay, कि ये कैसे सोच रहे हैं. देखो, हम ये कहते हैं कि जब भी हमें किसी किस्म का पेमेंट डेटा मिलेगा, तो हम उस पेमेंट डेटा को स्टडी करके न्यू एज डिजिटल लैंडिंग करेंगे. ठीक है, हम सिर्फ पेमेंट डेटा को मानते हैं, हम वो जूमो वाले डेटा नहीं मानते जो मोबाइल फोन्स पे और सर्फिंग से और उससे आता है, वो उसके ऊपर ले होता है. तो अब पाकिस्तान में अगर आपने प्रोडक्टिव लैंडिंग करनी है, प्रोडक्टिव लैंडिंग क्या होती है? जब आप पैसे एक बिजनेस को देते हैं और वो उसको बिजनेस में लगाता है, वो प्रोडक्टिव लैंडिंग होती है. कंजम्पशन लैंडिंग होती है जब आप किसी प्रोफेशनल को पैसे देते हैं और वो उससे चीजें कंज्यूम करता है. असल लैंडिंग जो है, जिससे इकोनॉमी स्वेल करती है, जिससे इंपैक्ट क्रिएट होता है, जिससे मुल्क चेंज होते हैं, वो प्रोडक्टिव लैंडिंग है. 70-80% of what Finja does is productive lending. Now, I'm going to give you an example of productive lending in the supply chain management play in the FMCG space. Fast mover consumer goods, Unilever, रैकेट बेनकीजर, उनकी मैं बात कर रहा हूं. तो वो ऊपर होते हैं, उनके नीचे डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर्स होते हैं, डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर्स के नीचे करियानाज होते हैं, बीच में होलसेलर्स भी होते हैं, मेट्रो मैक्रोज भी होते हैं, स्टॉकिस्ट भी होते हैं, इस तरह के भी लोग होते हैं. तो फिंजा क्या करता है कि फिंजा ने हजारों करियाना स्टोर्स को, which are called mom and pop stores, को in 15-20 countries of the city, उनको लोन्स दिए हुए हैं 50,000 रुपीस के, बट एवरेज. वो मैं लोन कैसे देते हैं? वो हम ऐसे देते हैं that we've got data that comes in from the FMCGs and the distributors of how much these kiryanas have been buying. Now the kiryanas buy every 10 days and they sell at a profit of 5 to 10%. So they make about 30% easily every month. We study that data and then we go visit the Kiryana, we take the pictures, we ask isometric questions, and our machine learning AI engines calculate the loan amount based on how much he's buying, based on how much inventory he has, based on how much footfall and sales he has. And then the time that the Kiryana is buying from the distributor, we come in between and we pay the distributor. Let's say the Kiryana wants to buy 100 rupees worth of stuff. We give the distributor 100 rupees and the Kiryana guy pays us 102 or 103 rupees 1 month later. So it's, buy now, pay later. So what that does is that it gives him cash flow, and we have invested in his business and he's never empty shop. So हमेशा याद रखो कि जो business 2020 में scale करेगा, जो business model वो होगा जिसमें सारे स्टेक होल्डर्स जीतेंगे. You can't go out and scale in the new world where you're selfish and you think you're going to dribble the ball and make a goal and end में तुम अमीर हो जाओगे, ऐसे नहीं होता. You have to go out and think very hard that how does all parts of the ecosystem win and how do you unlock value for everyone. So in this business model, करियाना वाला जीत रहा है, वो 30% बनाता है, उसको 2.5% पे कैपिटल मिल रहा है जिससे वो और चीजें लेता है, उसकी दुकान कभी खाली नहीं होती. डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर जीत रहा है क्योंकि उसकी सेल्स इंक्रीज हो रही हैं और उसका पैसे क्रेडिट में नहीं फंस रहे. एफएमसीजी जीत रही है बिकॉज ये मिलियन स्टोर्स हैं, उन सबकी 30% सेल अगर ऊपर हो जाती है तो एफएमसीजी जीत रही है. कस्टमर जीत रहा है क्योंकि उसको आगाज या जलाल सन्स या कहीं और नहीं जाना पड़ रहा, उसके कॉर्नर स्टोर पे ज्यादा चीजें आ रही हैं, वो कभी खाली नहीं है. फिंजा जीत रहा है और फिंजा का पार्टनर बैंक जीत रहा है बिकॉज वो 4 पैसे बना रहे हैं. और पाकिस्तान जीत रहा है बिकॉज इकोनॉमी स्वेल हो रही है. एंड इफ यू वांट मी टू टेक इट फर्दर, उम्मत जीत रही है बिकॉज आपने एक क्लोज्ड एंडेड लोन, एक ओपन एंडेड लोन को क्लोज्ड एंडेड लोन कर दिया और इस्लामिक बना दिया है. बिकॉज अब मैं उसके कारोबार में शिरकत कर रहा हूं, मैं उसको पैसे नहीं दे रहा. तो जब आप अपना दिमाग लगाएंगे और आपकी प्री डिस्पोजिशन ये है कि आपने नहीं जीतना, सबने जीतना है, बिकॉज बिजनेस इज अ टीम स्पोर्ट. एक तो ये टीमें जिताती हैं, कोई एक कप्तान नहीं जिताता, टीमें जिताती हैं. फिंजा इज डूइंग वेल बिकॉज फिंजा इज a management team and people that are sort of driving Finja. You know, it's not Kase for the founders. You know, that's good that they are there, but it's how collectively everybody works, and then how committed they are for everybody else to win. Otherwise, they won't be able to conceive and commit to business models like these and believe in them and bet everything they have, because they know that in this everyone is winning and not them. So lending business models emerging markets में आपने इस तरह बनाने हैं कि सबने जीत. ये 1 महीने का लोन है, ठीक है. अब तक हम $10 बिलियन की ये लोन्स कर चुके हैं और वापस ले चुके हैं. इसमें बैड डेट नेग्लिजिबल है, बट इस ये बनाना करना इसको चलाना मुश्किल है. तो now the banks are coming in and giving that. So the other thing that we do is that we give loans to professionals whose companies use our portal. So Finja Business is a portal, and when you go and disperse salaries, vendor payments, etc., we know where the money is going. Again, data, and then we go out and give you salary advances. And you know, and there we are launching a brand new product which is called Finja Card, which is going to be a first digital card coming in the next 2 weeks. A credit debit card will go to professionals from 30,000 to 3-4 लाख रुपए के बीच में वो टारगेट हो रहा है. क्रेडिट कार्ड भी है, डेबिट कार्ड भी है, क्रेडिट लाइन भी है, मोबाइल वॉलेट भी है, और आप खुद डिसाइड करते हैं आपने सारा कुछ क्या करना है. Again, we are doing this because I see how the employers are packaging capital and sending it downwards, and because I see that there is money coming to you every month, I can go out and create a loan for you that actually suits your life cycle. So you decide that when you get paid becomes your paying cycle, and you get 30 days free. So if you go out and design products which are actually conceived bottom up in their design to suit the segments that you want to work with, and if you worry about how those segments are going to win big because of what you're creating, then you have a chance of building a scalable lending portfolio.
So, I mean, there seems to be a great amount of first mover advantage here, right? So you're probably going guns a-blazing. Are you beginning to see any other competitors in the horizon anywhere?
Yeah.
Because, you know, once you embed yourself in the payroll systems and cash management of the firms, you know, there is a certain frictional cost to dislodging that. And you have the inherent access there.
That's true. That's true. देखो इसके 2 पार्ट्स हैं. देखो पहले तो ये है कि हमें ये समझ लेना चाहिए कि जो इस मुल्क में या किसी भी मुल्क में सप्लाई चेन है वो बहुत बड़ी है. एंड अभी हम ये कह रहे हैं, फिंजा ये कह रहा है कि उनका फोकस है एफएमसीजी सप्लाई चेन में, और उसके अंदर जो ज्यादा पैसे बनते हैं वो डाउनस्ट्रीम है, बिकॉज डाउनस्ट्रीम कभी कोई पहुंचा ही नहीं है. द करियाना इज राइट एट द एंड. And how do you get to a Karyana, and how do you have them take loans continuously every month and make the maths work? But उसके ऊपर फिर distributors हैं, distributors के ऊपर फिर एफएमसीजीज हैं, और बीच में होल, और इन सारी चेन को डिजिटल क्रेडिट चाहिए, राइट? बट दिस इज जस्ट द एफएमसीजी supply chain. Then there is the agri supply chain. I mean, you know, we are a crying out loud agri company. तो जो एक फार्मर जाके वो खाद लेता है, तो मैं खाद वाले को पैसे दे सकता हूँ और फार्मर बाद में मुझे पैसे दे सकता है। इसी तरीके से एक कोरियर जब कोई काम करता है, इसी तरीके से कोई भी इंडस्ट्री में कोई भी चीज आप बनाते हैं तो उसके अंदर ये सारी डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन आती है। तो मैं कह रहा हूं कि पाकिस्तान में अभी बाय साइड डेटा नहीं है, मतलब जो दुकानों से बिक रहा है अनफॉर्चुनेटली वो सारा डिजिटाइज नहीं है। तो मैं बाय साइड डेटा देख के क्रेडिट डिसीजंस नहीं ले रहा, बट मैं सप्लाई साइड डेटा देख के क्रेडिट डिसीजंस ले रहा हूं। तो सप्लाई चेन में कहीं भी आपको अगर डेटा नजर आता है, whether it's on the buy side or on the sell side, you can go crazy and create lending. Sure, yes, there is a first mover advantage, but there are so many supply chains open, and there are so many parts of those supply chain that, you know, any one company cannot go out and sort of, they're like tens of unicorns in this 5th largest country in the world just in supply chain. So पहले तो ये समझ लें। दूसरा सवाल जो आपका है कि यार वो जो तुम सैलरीज की सप्लाई चेन को डिजिटाइज कर रहे हो, उसमें तुम्हारा फर्स्ट मूवर एडवांटेज बड़ा पावरफुल है, और वो है बिकॉज पाकिस्तान में 3, 4, 5 मिलियन बिजनेसेस हैं, और अगर वो बिजनेसेस वर्चुअली अपने आप को, आज आपने फिंजा बिजनेस में रजिस्टर करना है, यू गो टू द फिंजा वेबसाइट एंड विदाउट एनी पेपर वर्क, विद इन 2 minutes, you know, you create a virtual identity for yourselves, and then you can load money in it from IBFT, RTGS, whatever, and start making payments. It all happens like in 2, 3, 4 minutes, no face-to-face, nothing. So I've got 1,500 businesses using this. Every day new businesses are coming in. So far more than 3,000 businesses are using. So जब ये बड़ा होता जाएगा तो मेरे पास unlimited data आ रहे हैं उन corporate से और उनके employees और उनके vendor service. तो ये वाली supply chain में मेरा first mover advantage है, where the salary is being packaged. And yes, maybe we create a first mover advantage in the FMCG Karyana space, but everything else is open. And Finja itself is open to collaborate because Finja is a platform. ठीक है, तो प्लेटफॉर्म के एजेस पे आप वैल्यू क्रिएट कर सकते हैं। फिंजा के 2 स्टेटेड प्रिंसिपल्स मैं आपको बताता हूँ। पहला ये है कि हमने एटलीस्ट 1/3 लोगों को एंटरप्रेन्योर्स बनाना है फिंजा के अंदर से। ये हमारी फाउंडर्स की ब्लड पैक है ऑन मैनेजमेंट टीम का, कि हमने 1/3 लोगों को एंटरप्रेन्योर्स बनाना है। दूसरा हमारा प्रिंसिपल ये है कि फिंजा के अंदर जो लोग काम करते हैं उनका पहला राइट है, उनका और उनके फ्रेंड्स और फैमिली का पहला राइट है टू गो आउट एंड क्रिएट entities on the outer edges of Finja. So anything we don't want to do at Finja, आप करें बाहर जाके। अगर आप फिंजा या आप अपने चाचे मामे कजन के साथ कुछ स्ट्रक्चर बनाए, आपका पहला राइट है। तो ये सारे स्टेटेड गोल्स हैं हमारे जो हम कर रहे हैं। तो आगे जाके जब आपने लेंडिंग करनी है या पेमेंट्स करनी है या इस तरह की चीजें करनी है, आपने सिर्फ बैंक्स के साथ नहीं पार्टनर करना, आपने एक्चुअली पहले ये न्यू एज प्लेटफॉर्म्स के साथ पार्टनर करना है एज अ फिनटेक एंड अ स्टार्टअप, बिकॉज दैट्स सो मच इजियर। बिकॉज you know, Finja is going to soon give you, you know, APIs where you'd be able to build what they call embedded financial services. So in the future, and this is where it gets really interesting, all fintechs and startups or incumbents can actually, non-financial, can consume all of these APIs. So you don't have to be a fintech or a bank to be able to issue a debit card. You don't have to be a fintech. You could be a newspaper company and have your own card. You could be a hospital and be able to, you know, have your users do IBFT and pay bills. You know, go out and read about embedded finance and see how, as these new age companies like Finja come in with these licenses and open themselves up, how you could exactly be like Finja and not need the licenses and be in that embedded finance zone, and how that is about to change Pakistan is what I want most startups and fintechs to look at. So the partnerships are... Sorry,
go on.
No, no.
So मुझे लग रहा है कि after this session हमारे NIC से सारे लोगों ने resign करके आपके पास काम करने आ जाना, which would be a good outcome.
नहीं, अगर वो आएंगे तो हमारे दरवाजे खुले हुए हैं, वो आए,
That's
हम
very
उनको
good.
आएंगे and then they go back to NIC.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah. So
My question is actually
मैं
on
ये कह रहा हूँ,
the
सॉरी, मैं ये कहना चाह रहा हूँ कि जो चीज समझने की है वो ये है कि पाकिस्तान में स्टार्टअप रेवोल्यूशन तब तक नहीं आएगी जिस तरह तुम और मैं चाहते हैं, जब तक के स्टार्टअप्स मॉर्फ होके फिनटेक्स नहीं बनेंगी और बैंक्स के साथ पार्टनरशिप्स करके ये लास्ट माइल प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व नहीं करेंगी और एम्बेडेड फाइनेंस सेल्फ सर्विसेज नहीं आएंगी. बट अब ये सब हो रहा है. And the thing is that the banks are at their best behavior because the businesses and the users have, made the call. They are saying किधर है वो सारी चीजें, जो हमें चाहिए. तो बैंक्स को अब कुछ समझ नहीं आ रही सिवाय इसके कि वो फिनटेक्स और स्टार्टअप्स के साथ पार्टनर करें. लेकिन जो नीचे से छोटी फिनटेक्स और स्टार्टअप्स आ रही हैं, उनको सिर्फ बैंक्स के साथ पार्टनर करने की जरूरत नहीं है. वो ऐसे प्लेटफॉर्म्स के साथ पार्टनर कर सकती हैं जिन्होंने बैंक्स के साथ पार्टनर कर लिया, जिनके पास लाइसेंसेस हैं. एंड दिस ऑल ऑफ दिस विल बिकम इंक्रीमेंटली इजी, राइट? That's the worldview that you need to hold every day you come to NIC or a place like that. Because
look, I think बिल्कुल सही कहा. और I think हमारी जो cohort है, they're very fortunate to have you as part of our foundation council at NIC. So thank you for giving your, being so generous with your time and commitment to the cause of promoting entrepreneurship. I just want to go back to your business a little bit more. I mean, are you beginning to see the banks kind of competing in your lending marketplace, or is it very structured कि भाई मेरी $100 की book है, ये मेरे parameters हैं, मुझे इनमें fit करके match making कर दें? Because ज़्यादा marketplace जब consumer का फायदा तब होगा जब ये banks will start competing. We've seen this in Latin America, we've seen this in other places. Those sky high interest rates really got sort of reined in through this active competition and customer choice. So what steps are there? And then second question is really like, do you plan to extend the product range? I mean, would you look at mortgages, for instance? There's a severe housing shortage in our country. Main issue there being the financial ability rather than anything else. We can build the homes, but people can't buy them. जिनको चाहिए. तो उसके लिए like, what's the plan to extend the product range?
जी. देखो यार, पहले तो ये देखो कि जो अभी फिंजा कर रहा है वो एक बैंक या माइक्रो फाइनेंस बैंक कैसे कर सकता है, या जो फिंजा कर रहा है जो और भी छोटी कंपनीज करेंगी. भाई पहली बात तो ये है कि आपने जाके हजारों लाखों करियाना वालों को कस्टमर बनाना है. That means that there is analog work that you're doing in the real world. Then you have to go and create partnerships with distributors and then FMCGs. Then you have to disperse these loans through AI and machine learning algorithms. Then you have to digitally collect those loans, and then so on and so forth. To be able to go out and create this type of digital lending where there is so much process innovation, machine learning, AI, feet on street, all of that is happening. And then going into a brand new segment and creating a vintage of that portfolio, meaning, I have now Karyana guys that have taken 14 loans in a row every month and have never defaulted. And I've got thousands and thousands of those people. I've got that vintage. तो जब वो vintage आ जाएगी तो बैंकों में जो क्लर्क काम करते हैं, क्योंकि बैंकों में क्लर्कों की हुकूमत होती है मोस्टली, तो वो ये रिस्क नहीं ले सकते. कैसे लेंगे ये रिस्क अगर वो पोर्टफोलियो विंटेजेस ठीक नहीं आए, चीजें नहीं हुई, ये नहीं हुआ, वो नहीं हुआ, कैसे होगा? तो पहली तो बात ये है कि बैंक्स में इतने गट्स ही नहीं होते कि वो नए सेगमेंट्स में जाएं और वहां जाके लेंडिंग करें और फिर विंटेजेस बनाएं, और उसके बाद फिर उस पे तो वो नहीं हो रहा. तो दूसरा, अगर वो करना भी है तो फिर वो सारे स्ट्रक्चर्स कैसे बनाएंगे, टेक कैसे बनाएंगे, प्रोसेसेस कैसे बनाएंगे, कैसे करेंगे? नहीं कर सकते. 10 साल लग जाएंगे. मैं तो नहीं कर सके बैंक के अंदर. I'd like to see के कौन. तो so what happens is कि the banks now would want to share the credit book with you and want you to do all the work and, you know, make the money on the capital. And as long as you could prove to them that your portfolios have the right vintage and you can see the bank जो है ना वो King Kong है और वो उस केव में आ ही नहीं सकता जिस केव में जाके आप हैं, तो उसको आपके साथ कोलैबोरेट करना पड़ेगा। जितनी ज्यादा क्रेविसेस और केव्स में तुम चले जाओगे और जितना ज्यादा एनालिसिस और डेटा और रियल वर्ल्ड काम करोगे उतना ही ज्यादा बैंक की रीच से दूर हो जाओगे। भाई बैंक के अंदर कमेटियां होती हैं, बैंक के अंदर नेसेयर्स होते हैं, बैंक के अंदर कोई भी बंदा किसी भी काम को कह सकता है ये किया तो ये हो जाएगा और वो स्कटल हो जाता है। तो बैंक के अंदर ये चीजें करनी are 1,000 times harder than doing it in our structure. So I and my team loses no sleep over the fact कि कोई बैंक ही आके हमसे तेजी से कर लेगा. As we go out and build these portfolios with vintages, we've got multiple banks now coming in and wanting to partner with us, and we are starting to pick and choose now. And that's a great trend. And as other companies come in, they'll be able to partner with banks, and banks would want to share their credit books with them because we've already created those frameworks जहाँ ये होता है. पहले तो बैंक रोना शुरू कर देते कि ये मेरी कोर सर्विस है, मैं इसको आउटसोर्स कैसे करूंगा, ये तो मेरा कोर है, रेगुलेटर क्या कहेगा, ये क्या होगा, वो क्या होगा. वो सारे स्ट्रक्चर्स हमने ठीक करके बना लिए हैं. जब वो 1, 2, 4 बार बन जाते हैं उसके बाद वो फिर बन सकते हैं. बट बैंक तब तक नहीं आएगा जब तक आप अपने पोर्टफोलियो की विंटेज क्रिएट नहीं करेंगे.
और उसका ये है कि देखें इतना लेवरेजेबल बिजनेस मॉडल है ये कि there's a whole sort of value chain from a securitization perspective, right? So think about these are all loans backed by a tremendous amount of data. So the underwriting of these portfolios that banks can actually go and create those securitized mortgage or securitized packaged instruments to sell can actually and rated instruments to sell can actually bring a lot more liquidity and lower the bank's capital reserve requirements and so on and so forth, and maybe enhance the ROE significantly. So this is a huge opportunity for legacy banks. So what you're doing is tremendous.
Huge. The banks don't make this type of money in investing in T-bills, etc. They're making a lot more money. तो मैं ये कह रहा हूँ कि जो फ्रंट एंड प्रोडक्ट्स हैं वो फिनटेक्स कंट्रोल करेंगी, और जो पीछे से और प्रोसेसेस और सारा काम और पीछे से जो बुक्स हैं वो मल्टीपल बैंक से आएंगी. तो जब स्टार्टअप्स अपने आप को शुरू करें तो जरूरी नहीं है कि वो पहले दिन बैंक्स के साथ पार्टनर करें. वो इस तरह की न्यू एज एंटिटी, अगर एक फिंजा पहले से होती तो मैं इतना टाइम थोड़ा लगाते हम बैंक्स के साथ पार्टनर करने के. हम उस फिंजा के उस तरह की कंपनी के साथ पार्टनर करते, because it's taken time, it's and the pandemic has helped us tremendously. I can't tell you how important the pandemic was in dislodging these existing paradigms and systems and styles of thinking and management. It has no place in the boardroom anymore after the pandemic. So the banks have understood that if they need to go out and deploy productive lending in MSME and SME places and high quality consumption lending, they would have to partner with fintechs, right? That is on the wall.
So there are tens of questions in the pipeline that I'm seeing here. But before we and you're just your talk is so interesting that I could go on for hours. We haven't even scratched the surface. One last thing I would ask you to do, and then we'll open it up to Q&A, is to just show that slide 5, which shows the market sizing exercise that you did, just so people have a little bit of confidence in understanding the significant opportunity that exists here.
I think हमें 5 और 6 दोनों जल्दी से देखनी चाहिए. तो 5 में पहले आप लेफ्ट साइड पे देखें तो दिस इज नथिंग बट अ फिंजा स्कोर कार्ड. तो ये बता रहा है कि फिंजा जैसी कंपनी ने 100 बिलियन रुपीस की, दिस इज नॉट अ टाइपो, 100 बिलियन रुपीस की सैलरीज, वेंडर पेमेंट्स और कलेक्शंस और ये सब कुछ कर लिया. तो जब से फिंजा ऑपरेशनल है 3-4 साल से, दिस इज द टोटल ट्रांजैक्शनल थ्रूपुट. That's a lot of थ्रूपुट फॉर अ नॉन बैंकिंग एंटिटी, दैट मींस रियल पेमेंट डेटा, असल डेटा पेमेंट डेटा होता है। फिर 2000 बिजनेसेस ने किया है, 78,000 50,000 लोन्स हैं और $10 मिलियन, क्योंकि मेरे लोन छोटे होते हैं और 1 महीने के होते हैं, वो आते हैं जाते हैं तो विंटेज भी बनाते हैं, but total we've done $10 million. Now this is a little scorecard on our, but what Salim is talking about is the opportunity on the right. Just have a look at this यार, पाकिस्तान में इस वक्त सिर्फ 6% से कम एसएमईज को लोन मिला है, और मतलब बाकी सारी एसएमईज को कभी कोई लोन ही नहीं मिला। तो जब से पाकिस्तान बना है, जो नंबर है वो कोई 2.5-3 लाख है, कि 3 लाख से ज्यादा एसएमई लोन्स ही नहीं मिले पिछले 70 साल में। और ये 3.2 मिलियन एसएमईज आर ग्रोसली अंडरस्टेटेड, बिकॉज पाकिस्तानीज को ये बीमारी है कि वो हर चीज अंडरस्टेट कर देते हैं। मतलब अगर आपके 500 बंदा काम कर रहा है तो आप कहते हैं जी 100 कर रहा है, कि आप ईओआईबी में 100 बंदा दिखा देते हैं। हर चीज को आप अंडरस्टेट कर देते हैं, जिसकी वजह से फिर आपको डिजिटल क्रेडिट नहीं मिल सकता या क्रेडिट नहीं मिल सकता। तो एक तो नंबर ऑफ एसएमईज पाकिस्तान में ज्यादा है, उनमें जो लोग एम्प्लॉय करते हैं, जो स्टेटेड नंबर्स है वो ज्यादा है, जो वो नेट इनकम बनाते हैं, टॉप लाइन बनाते हैं वो ज्यादा है। एवरीथिंग इज ग्रोसली अंडरस्टेटेड, एंड देन द लेंडिंग इज hardly happened. I mean, we are one of the lowest countries in the world in terms of lending to our businesses and individuals. So 0.4 ट्रिलियन की लेंडिंग जो है वो इस वक्त हमारी हुई है, विच इज 4%। तो द लेंडिंग अपॉर्चुनिटी इज अबाउट $60 बिलियन और 10 ट्रिलियन रुपीज। बिकॉज अगर मेरे पास एक और स्लाइड है जो इधर नहीं है, वो आपको दिखाएगी कि अमेरिका में पर 100 कितने लोगों को लोन मिला है, ब्राजील में कितने को मिला है, बाकियों कितने मिला है। तो पाकिस्तान में तो कहानी शुरू ही नहीं हुई। और जब तक आप बिजनेसेस को और इंडिविजुअल्स को क्रेडिट नहीं देंगे ऑन डिमांड, तब तक आपकी इकोनॉमी स्वेल नहीं करेगी। बिजनेस, जब आप टेक्नोलॉजी और क्रेडिट का कॉम्बिनेशन एक छोटे बिजनेस पे लेके जाएंगे, वो सुपर बिजनेस बनेगा। जब तक आप ये नहीं करेंगे कुछ भी नहीं होगा। तो फिंजा ये समझती है कि अगर आपने मुल्क को ट्रांसफॉर्म करना है तो आप छोटे बिजनेसेस को टेक्नोलॉजी और क्रेडिट का कॉम्बिनेशन दें, और वहां कोई काम नहीं हुआ। तो ये डेक आपको बेसिकली ये दिखा रहा है कि ना कंजम्पशन लोन्स हुए हैं, ना प्रोडक्टिव लोन्स हुए हैं, ना एसएमई को लोन्स हुए हैं, और एवरीथिंग इज अंडरस्टेटेड। मतलब इस मुल्क में 50 मिलियन लोगों की तनख्वाह आती है, लेकिन उसमें से सिर्फ 5-7 मिलियन लोगों की तनख्वाह डिजिटली आती है, बाकियों को कैश मिल रहा है, या एंड वो जो तनख्वाह आ रही है वो भी अंडरस्टेटेड है। मतलब आधे कैश में मिलते हैं, आधे उसमें। सो द मार्केट इज अंडरस्टेटेड ग्रोसली, एंड व्हाटएवर इज lending in that understated market is still the lowest number in the world, or one of the lowest. ठीक है, ये मैं बताना चाह रहा हूँ। Salim, do you have a question here, or should we?
Yeah, I do have a question. So do you think there's like a push strategy here, meaning getting the regulators of the FPRs of the world involved? Because it does serve the dual purpose there.
Yeah, look, I mean, this is the question would be, and most of us know the answer, कि ये क्यों हुआ है? ये इसलिए हुआ है कि banks को आसान पैसे बनते थे, they would just let the governments borrow in T-bills. And most of the lending portfolio that the banks have is with the government, and they make good money. तो बैंक डिपॉजिट लेता रहता है और उसके ऊपर इंटरेस्ट इनकम बनाता रहता है, और जब दिल करता है मोटी मोटी कंपनीज को जो 100-200 हैं और गवर्नमेंट को लैंड कर देता है, और बस यही चल रही है स्टोरी पिछले 50 साल से। अब चीजें चेंज हो रही हैं, अब रेगुलेटर्स एक्टिवली आ रहे हैं, चीजें कर रहे हैं, सारा कुछ हो रहा है। एफबीआर कह रहा है मैंने टैक्स नेट बड़ा करना है, स्टेट बैंक कह रहा है कि यार 100 मिलियन बंदे को उसके अंदर लेके आना है, एससीसीपी जो है वो कह रहा है कंपनीज को रजिस्टर करना है। सो ये सारे रेगुलेटर्स इन टेंडम पॉलिसी इंटरवेंशंस कर रहे हैं, पब्लिक प्राइवेट पार्टनरशिप्स बना रहे हैं, फिंजा जैसी कंपनीज को जो छोटे छोटे सीड्स हैं उनको नर्चर कर रहे हैं, मदर कर रहे हैं, ग्रो कर रहे हैं, ताकि वो फ्लावर्स में बने। Because what the policy makers have understood in this country is कि अगर एक सीड फ्लावर बन के निकलेगा तो that's a precursor of spring, क्योंकि उसके बाद और बेतहाशा फूल आएंगे और इंस्पिरेशन होगी। तो ये जो पहले पहले फूल निकालना है ये बहुत मुश्किल होता है। तो ये पहली फिंजास बनाना और इस तरह की कंपनीज बनाने के लिए आपको कासिफ और मोनस जैसे लोग चाहिए जिन्होंने 20-20 साल दुनिया में डिफरेंट जगहों में काम किया है, चीजें की हैं, ये वो। बट जब ये आप पहली बार सड़कें बना लेते हैं और आपके स्ट्रक्चर्स में केपेबल 24 साल के लोग काम कर लेते हैं, तो then the next spin-off or generation of entrepreneurs and companies is very quick. I encourage all of you guys to read the PayPal folks, the PayPal mafia, जिसमें पीटर थील है और वो टेस्ला वाला एलॉन मस्क है और लिंक्डइन वाला वो है, क्या नाम है उसका, तो Reid Hoffman. So all of these people drove the valley because they challenged the status quo and the banks, and then they make money and then spun off companies, and then people who worked in those companies. तो आज के दिन में जो नई कंपनीज बन रही हैं वो कौन है? करीम और उबर के लोग बना रहे हैं, और वो लोग बना रहे हैं जो वापिस्तानीज हैं, बिकॉज इतना मुश्किल है, बिकॉज और बड़े लोग बना रहे हैं, बट जो अगले 2 साल में 1 साल में इनके अंदर से लोग निकलेंगे तो वो it'll be much faster. So what I'm saying is that it may seem very difficult right now that you need a Nadeem Hussain or a Kasif or a whatever, but I mean things are changing very quickly, and within Finja I'm seeing the next generation of people who are super capable, that as we scale inshallah and unlock some value, there'll be a bunch of new companies coming in, so it's incrementally becoming easier. So this chart is going to change, and I think there is political will behind all of this. तो 3 साल के बाद जब हम ये देख रहे होंगे, तो I don't think कि हम ये कहेंगे कि only 6% of the SMEs are lent in this country and only 4% are officially lent to. I think these numbers are going to be in double figures.
Yeah, and look, the honest truth is that we can't get economic growth unless we have credit growth, and credit growth actually at that level of that SME that really revs up the engine. So look, I'm gonna go to the audience. I can keep talking to you for hours, like I said. So Saima, do you have cohort mates lined up to ask Chris quick questions? Because we've already overrun on the time. So, maybe like just literally a 5-second intro on what their startup is, and then they dive right into the very direct question.
Sure. So we'll have Kalpe first.
Shersha, go ahead. Okay, he's not there. I think his question was, which I asked earlier as well, like in the absence of those licenses, how do you operate, which you've already answered. I don't know if I think he had a certain incumbency fear or the first mover fear that if the market is captured by the big wigs, then why am I doing this venture? So if you have any words of guidance, I mean, which I think you've answered, like, you're just building the...
बता देता हूँ, बड़ा क्वेश्चन है। देखो यार, देखो साइडलाइन पे नहीं बैठना। कई ऐसी चीजें हैं जो आप कर सकते हैं जिसमें आपको कोई रेगुलेटरी लाइसेंस नहीं चाहिए, कोई इनकम्बेंसी पार्टनरशिप नहीं चाहिए, कोई फिनटेक पार्टनरशिप नहीं चाहिए। आप सोचें, वो आप कर सकते हैं। फिर अगला स्टेप ये है कि आप किसी फिनटेक के साथ पार्टनर करें जिसके पास ये सारी चीजें हैं, और फिर एक स्टेप ये है कि आप बैंक्स को छोड़ दें, आप किसी और इनकम्बेंट के साथ पार्टनरशिप करें, So, and then there are banks, and then there are smaller banks, and then there are foundations, right? So there are all sorts of opportunities to partner. Now, when you partner with someone, you make sure that you solve their problem, because now you're coming on top of a platform. See, this is the playbook. China में wealth कैसे create हुई है कि 15 platforms आ गए हैं जिनके 800-900 million users हैं, और हर थोड़े दिन के बाद वो अपने नीचे देखते हैं और जौन सी उनको कंपनी अच्छी लगती है उसमें पैसे इन्वेस्ट कर देते हैं और उसको कहते हैं मेरे ऊपर आ जाओ। और जब वो उसके ऊपर आता है तो देखते ही देखते उसके 100 मिलियन 200 मिलियन यूजर होते हैं। 900 मिलियन में से अब एक छोटी सी इंश्योरेंस बेचनी शुरू कर दी, आपको एक वीचैट ने खरीद लिया या आपके अंदर पैसे डाल दिया, आपको अपने ऊपर ले आया, तो ये हो जाता है। तो आपने इस तरह की स्ट्रक्चर्स देखने हैं जो आपसे बड़े हैं, and they have a problem that you have to solve. Now that could be a bank, that could be a foundation, that could be anything, right? So you got to leech on to that. It is a different frame than being a gold digger. So I'm saying don't be a gold digger, go out and make pails and shovels, okay? and bank is just one play, right? You can partner with any platform that's bigger than you.
Okay, Saima, let's keep going through the list quickly.
और APIs आ रहे हैं, ठीक है, हर किस्म के APIs आ रहे हैं जो तुम कंज्यूम कर सकोगे हफ्तों में, दिनों में, बहुत सारे हमारे पास हैं भी, नेक्स्ट जनरेशंस पे हम काम कर रहे हैं. So you'd be able to consume all those APIs. Whatever Finja has or companies like Finja have is going to get democratized, and any fintech and a startup will be able to have it in the coming months. It's not just a Finja strategy. Just go and read what embedded finance is, and you'll understand it's bigger than the internet. And
Kasim, what trajectory are we on? Are we on the Latin American trajectory of sorts, or are we on the Indonesian, Far East Asian type of market? Like, I mean, if you were to sort of pin us, where are we on the curve?
Great question, यार. वो हुआ ये है कि फार ईस्टर्न और इंडोनेशियन इकोनॉमीज में रेगुलेटर्स इतने तेज हो गए हैं कि वो हर नए हफ्ते एक नई पेशकश कर देते हैं, नई पॉलिसीज, नई चीजें. उससे मार्केट में फिटीग आ रही है और प्लेयर्स हिल रहे हैं और चीजें हो रही हैं. जो लैटिन अमेरिकन मार्केट्स हैं वहाँ बैंकिंग सिस्टम्स जो हैं वो स्टेबल हैं, बड़े हुए हैं, और उसके गिर्द चीजें हो रही हैं. रेगुलेटर जरा कंजर्वेटिव है, देख के चीजें करता है और सारा कुछ है. आई थिंक हम एक नया मॉडल इस मुल्क में लेके आ रहे हैं, और वो ये है कि अगर आप जरा से सीरियस हो जाएंगे तो आपको स्टेट बैंक रेगुलेट करेगा इन दीज न्यू एज कंपनीज लाइक PSPs, PSOs, EMIs. लेकिन अगर आप उसके नीचे हैं तो SCCP आपको किसी ना किसी तरह कवर दे के आपसे काम करवाएगा. एंड द सिक्योरिटीज एक्सचेंज कमीशन इज अ फैबुलस regulator to spur innovation, and the people there are just phenomenal. I mean, in terms of how they're thinking. Not to say that State Bank is not at its optimal right now. तो ये दोनों इदारों का कॉम्बिनेशन जो है कि एक नीचे पिरामिड बन रहा है जिसके अंदर आपकी रेगुलेशन ऑपरेशनली इंटेंसिव नहीं है, आप आसानी से उसमें आ सकते हैं. It's much easier to become an NBFC than an EMI, for example. And even when you are in the process of becoming an NBFC, you can do some lending, right? So it's a different regulator that wants to spur innovation. तो नीचे इनोवेट, लेकिन जब आप जरा से बड़े होएंगे और आप कंट्री रिस्क क्रिएट कर सकते हो, ट्रस्ट इश्यूज क्रिएट कर सकते हो, ये कर सकते हो, वो कर सकते हो, तो दैट्स व्हेन द स्टेट बैंक विल कम. सो देयर इज अ यूनिवर्स अंडर द SCCP, then there is a universe in the SCCP, and then there is a universe in the new age companies, and then eventually, so multiple universes are now operational in Pakistan, which allow a different level of control, and the lower you go, the less the control is. All Fantastic. Very well thought out now.
Okay, Saima, do you have the next one?
I have the question. I won't go to the participant. There's a startup called Soch. They have this question that how is Finja dealing with identity fraud, and how does it verify that a business actually has the means to pay back the loan?
देखो यार, आइडेंटिटी फ्रॉड्स तो कई तरीके होते हैं. सबसे पहले, the way Finja works is that we only get excited when we get supply side data of our potential users, meaning कि मुझे नजर आना चाहिए कि वो करियाना या वो बिजनेस कितनी चीजें खरीद रहा है on a monthly basis, on a timeline. मुझे नजर आना चाहिए if you are an employee, how long have you been employed and what your salary is, what your future हो. अगर तुम बैंक में टेलर हो और पैसे काउंट कर रहे हो तो मैं तुम्हें लोन नहीं दूंगा, वो मुझे नजर आ रहा है सारी ब्रांचें बंद हो जाएंगी. लेकिन अगर तुम सॉफ्टवेयर कोड करते हो या कोई और ऐसा काम करते हो जिसकी फ्यूचर ओरिएंटेशन है तो हम आपको लैंड. तो the thing is that we operate within a white list, meaning I already know where you work, I already know that you buy from Unilever, I already know what you're doing. So there is no question of a mis-sell, because I'm not going out and selling in an ocean. I go out and sell in a swimming pool that I pre-qualify based on the payments that you are making, right? That's where the check is.
अच्छा, एक क्वेश्चन ऑडियंस का काफी लोगों ने लाइक किया हुआ, तो वो मैं पूछ लेता हूँ. Are you utilizing agencies like Nielsen for buy-side data, because they have sensors and retail data, although Nielsen's exited Pakistan from what I remember, or are you building your own data set, through the Kriana channel, organically?
To look at some of these studies, we are Pakistanis, we don't like all of us to pay for good quality research. I think Nielsen ने कोई की भी नहीं है, तो जो उनकी पुरानी चीजें हैं वो हम देखते रहते हैं और बाकी सारी चीजें हम खुद बनाते हैं और सारा कुछ करते हैं. But we are a data company, so because we work with so many parts of the ecosystem now, we've got like hundreds and thousands of data points on the segments in which we operate. So I mean, I've got data of hundreds and thousands of karyanas, professionals, and so on. And as these companies transact on our systems and all of that, we are generating more data. And then when we ask people to give us permission so that we can read, their phone or where they've been and so on, people are happy to do that because they understand we are about to lend to them. So, we haven't bought high quality research at all, right? And I don't think much of that is available also.
Well, how big is your data science team, and are you able to recruit the talent that you have? And what element of your algo is sort of human kind of tweaking driven?
Yeah, the thing is this ke Salim ke ab ye jo Finja ki tarah ki companies hai na, I think that we've become employers of choice. I'll tell you why. The people who have a great degree of self-belief don't want to work in incumbency structures where they're just a cog in the machine. They want to come in and work in cultures like Finja where they have full empowerment and ownership to do whatever the hell that they want to do as long as it's aligned to the... So वो सारे बच्चे और बड़े जिनकी सेल्फ बिलीफ है, जो कहते हैं हम अकेले हम कुछ कर सकते हैं और इस स्ट्रक्चर में we'll be the big fish, वो सारे तो डेटा भी उसे तो मेरे पास I've got two people that are running. One is the data scientist, a LUMS thing, and the other one is a data engineer, and under them we have a full-fledged 6-people team. But the talent density of my data scientists and my data engineers is high. And I mean, they come in and they challenge me on a daily basis, like they give me management input that makes me think about what they've said for days. So the talent density is high, and the Finja culture is allowing them to really drive our thinking. But they have grown in Finja. When I got them, they weren't the people that they are now, 3 years from now. They needed to know that through data, they can go and sway the direction of the ship anytime. And once they've understood that power, they're driving a lot of thinking. And I'm so impressed with the talent that Finja and companies like Finja are lately starting to attract. Because यार देखो, तुम्हारे और मेरे जैसे लोगों ने दुनिया में हर कल्चर्स के साथ काम किया है. मतलब मैं, I have led teams of multiple cultures in multiple geographies, okay? तो मैं तुम्हें बता सकता हूँ कि मैक्सिकन बच्चे, अमेरिकन बच्चे, सिंगापुरियन बच्चे, फार ईस्टर्न बच्चे, इंडियंस, साउथ इंडियंस, स्पेनिश, ग्रीक, you tell me, I'll tell you कि तो मैं तुम्हें ये बता रहा हूँ कि जो पाकिस्तानी बच्चे मल्टीकल्चरल हैं, who have fire in the belly, who have been brought up with the right value system, जिनके वालिद साहब जो थे वो 1 नंबर आदमी थे, जिनको वैल्यूज भी मिल गई हैं, जो हंग्री भी हैं और जो मल्टीकल्चरल भी हैं, वो जब हमारे साथ आके हमारे कल्चर में काम करते हैं, तो we don't need anybody else. I think we can achieve more of the talent that we have, but this talent needs a structure and a culture right now. A 24-year-old going out and building a unicorn in a fintech space is still very hard in Pakistan today. But 2 or 3 or 4 years from now, by the time we get done with these initial structures, ये बच्चे खुद आएंगे और गराज में ये सारी चीजें बनाएंगे और हमारी मार्केट इतनी बड़ी है कि ये सब कुछ होगा. अभी थोड़ा मुश्किल है, बट टैलेंट से मैं बहुत खुश हूँ. जो मुझे अब वो टैलेंट ऊपर है सिर्फ, लेकिन अब जो मुझे टैलेंट मिल रहा है वो बड़ा जबरदस्त है, क्योंकि वो बच्चे काम ही नहीं करना चाहते बैंक में या इनकम्बेंट्स में आप उनको एंगेज ही नहीं रख सकते. They will not dream about their work.
That's great.
You know,
Are you
yeah.
are you able to patent your stuff to protect your IP, your algos? पाकिस्तान में patent कर सकते हैं आप अपने IP को कि नहीं?
Yeah, we've got IP. देखो, let me carefully answer this. The IP, and it may sound rude to a few people, but I mean, come on, it's an old world thing that has outlived its utility. तो आप कुछ चीजों को IP कर सकते हैं, but it's highly overrated. और वो IP करने का प्रोसेस जो है ना, वो भी 1.5-2-3 साल का है, और वो फिर वो चलता रहता है और सारा कुछ होता है. तो लोग मुझे कहते हैं आपके 3-year plans क्या हैं, आपकी ये क्या, आपके वो क्या है. तो हमारा तो सिर्फ 1-year plan है और उसके आगे एक छोटा सा वो है. तो I have some IPs, like SimSim is a brand name that we've IP'd, you know, so nobody can use that but us. And, you know, some of the other things. But, you know, AI and machine learning and IPing processes is not as straightforward as it may seem, and may not create the kind of protection that one would hope for. The only IP that you have is that people in your company are creating innovation at the bedrock of your company. And that happens when you lead through context and you don't lead through controls. That happens when people in your company are empowered and they own their initiatives and there's a tolerance for failure. So the only way to go out and continuously create and unlock new value and be at the forefront or the cutting edge or bleeding edge of innovation where the blue ocean lies, where there is no competition, is not when the CEO and the founders are going to tell from top ki ab kya karna hai. It's when people who are closest to the problem raise their hand and say, मैं इसको ठीक करूंगा. और अगर वो ठीक नहीं होती तो insights आती हैं और failure की tolerance है, but initiative के number हैं. वो तब तक नहीं हो सकता when you start talking down to your people and start telling them कि क्या करना है.
So my question is, like, I mean, you know, the behavioral patterns that you're recognizing through your machine learning and data analytics, uski kya correlation hai with like the generally held principles of, you know, credit worthiness? And, you know, my IP question really related to that identification of that, you know, behavioral pattern. If there's something unique insight that you've gleaned, then that's a very valuable IP. You don't want that to be replicated.
Yeah. But the value there is actually coming in from the data that you're putting into your machine learning and AI and the mistakes that you're making, right? So for example, when I go out and start to lend and I run into a segment or a type of customers that are not that great, my algo and machine learning becomes smarter in real time and starts to go out and create a different play where I, by design, start to avoid those users. Now, this is not happening post loan booking. This is happening in the real time. That's how machine learning and AI are different than the previous models, because the previous models were post fact and these are real models. So basically, the more data that you put into your engines and the more mistakes that you make or more suboptimal credit that you book at the initial stages of business, building these businesses, the better it serves you. So it's counterintuitive, but actually it pays to book bad credit initially so that you know what it is, than to have zero credit loss and then 2 years later find out that, you know, that you have a segment. So the IP is actually coming in from the mistakes you know, that you're consciously make earlier on in the game, right? And and if you don't make those mistakes, you don't get that IP. So, you know, you don't get that institutional memory, you know, to avoid those things. So I think the protection is there. And yeah, to give you a sense of where we are on a 1 to 10 scale. So I've got, I mean, my IP would tell me a lot of my machine learning AI would tell me, for example, I can predict, if you tell me a shop in defense and you tell me its size and I can take its picture and ask a few questions, I would be able to predict with a great degree of accuracy how much inventory is held in that shop, right? And based and how much he may be buying from multiple distributors, etc., and what's the loan amount that I need to give to that guy. I can come up with that score, and then I will overlay that with the work that I'm doing in the real world and see if there is a deviation. So, and eventually I'll get to a stage where there's no work going on in the real world and everything is happening on the credit AI engine. But on a scale on 1 to 10, I think we are about 5 or 6 there.
Got it. Achha, Qasim, I've just been scrolling through the questions, and I think a lot of questions deal with just understanding the business a bit better. So I think as a final slide, maybe we do go to page 6 and you just show that slide and talk through your business a little bit.
Okay.
Because there are like 7 or 8 questions related to that.
Yeah. So let's go to that. Iske aage wali hai. Haan, Simon, ye. Dekho, guys, let's focus at the middle, okay? The middle is what he's been asking, which is the credit engine, right? This is the AI machine learning credit engine. Now, on the left of the screen are the data points, right? So Rosie, जो मेरा partner है, Monis, co-founder है Finja का, उसके पास 10 million employees के data है, updated data because their CVs and all that. So if I want to go out and lend to professionals, I have an unfair advantage because I could look at their data, give them a credit score, and do the bureau verification and all of that. So on the right side, I've got these multiple examples of credit books that I have, right? In the middle is the credit engine, and on the left side, I've got these data sources, right? Unilever hai, examples hain ye, Pepsi hai, NBP funds hai, Alpha Investments hai, betahasha mere paas data sources hain. फिर मेरा payroll है, फिर third party databases हैं, फिर Finja payment ecosystem आपको नजर आ रहा है. So when I run these things, I go out and create a loan amount. And based on that loan amount, I decide which credit book I'm going to use along with my own and disperse a loan, right? So Finja is a digital lending platform that on one side brings disparate databases of buying and selling behavior of businesses and professionals, and then runs it through my algo and machine learning, create a loan amount, and then figure out what is the optimal lending book that I'm going to use. And, as we get into it more and more, everything becomes more and more competitive, more and more digital, and less analog and physical, right? So if I've got digital credit analysts right now, who create a score and the engine creates a score, soon enough, I won't have those, credit guys, and those credit guys would actually be fully focused on building and operating the engine rather than going out and creating parallel scores and then matching them. So that's how this evolution happens. We've got all of this here. We've been putting data in this thing for 18 months now. And because we've already done $10 million worth of loans, which we are going to grow exponentially now, we've got that first mover advantage that Salim talked about. And to me, that's really, the IP, to have more data and more mistakes and more good loans, and have that institutional memory and process of super driven people, that are making inferences and insights and decisions on that data. So that, so that's really the first mover advantage, and to continue to grow, that is, I think, where the blue ocean is.
So are you going to continue to stay in these two sort of products, or you think you'll expand the offering to others as well?
Great question.
Like,
now, a time comes in a startup's life where a startup has to focus and have a tunnel vision and then grow exponentially in that time frame. So for the next 8 to 10 to 12 months, we'd like to grow our lending book 10 times. And when we do that, we would become a sustainable business. So if I have a $10 million lending book deployed at 2-3%, then I'm a business that does not need VC money anymore. I'm standing on my own two legs. I've become a desi cooker, as opposed to, these Vileti things that people eat who can't stand on their legs. So, the new thinking is that if you really want to be a business, then you better be sustainable on your own without having, the VC funding. And then when you do that, VC funding comes anyways as a consequence. So Finja is now in a race over the next 10, 12 months to become a sustainable business. And the fastest way to do that is to focus and grow 10 to 15 times what we've already built. So our nature is to go out and build things. But, we've put in a moratorium in the company for, new product development for the next 8-10 months. And we have a laser-like focus to sort of scale up, create hockey sticks, and get to a point where, we would need money for our ongoing operations. That's really what the management team at people at Finja are committed. So you won't see a lot of new things coming from us outside of these segments for the next 8 to 10 months. But you could be sure that we would give it everything we have, to scale this baby, because we feel very responsible, and we feel that if we do this well, we would be that catalyst or that horseman जो सबसे पहले जब जंग होती है तो जो सबसे आगे जाता है और नारा तकबीर लगाता है और फिर उसके बाद अटैक होता है, उसके बाद सब कुछ होता है. So we want to be the tailblazer, that creates the atmosphere for hundreds of fintechs and startups to get inspired and change that country. We think that we can actually be that company from where we've arrived in our journey, and it's just a matter of now, superhuman teamwork. And we've got the personalities and the credentials, and we are in sync with each other. We love each other. We respect each other. We work with each other. We are one with each other. And now we want to make our impact felt. And for that, it's important we focus. So less innovation and more scale for Finja with a super focus.
More power to you, and wishing you and your team the absolute best. Look, this has been an absolutely tremendous session. We still have very high engagement of viewers that I can see, but we normally do this for 90 minutes, and we've already gone past that time. So if you have any parting thoughts, love to hear them. But otherwise, our sincere thanks to you from everyone at NIC. For being part of our foundation council, and for being so generous with your and so open and candid with your thoughts, and sharing your learning, which is invaluable. So thank you.
I want to say two things. One, I want to thank you to carving out space in your life to contribute to NIC, and LUMS and NIC is a platform from where we can create high quality companies, but there is so much that we have to do to get there, and we needed people like yourselves to make that a priority. So, and I can see कि उसके बाद से चीजें कैसे हो रही हैं, क्या हो रहा है, तो मैं इसके ऊपर मैं बड़ा excited हूँ और खुश हूँ, and I want to give the feedback to the team के इन structure से ही हम कुछ कर सकते हैं. तो ये बड़ा जबरदस्त है. दूसरा मैं ये कहना चाहता हूँ कि यार फिंजा जो है वो ओपन है, ठीक है, NIC के लिए ओपन है, सब बच्चों के लिए ओपन है, anybody that wants to do anything open hai. Come collaborate with us, talk to us, do internships with us. Finja में तुम्हें पता है 18 साल के, 20 साल के, 22 साल के बच्चे काम करते हैं जो प्रोडक्ट डेवलपमेंट कर रहे हैं, चीजें कर रहे हैं, और जब वो बोलते हैं हम सारे सुनते हैं. Because how they think and how they operate is very different. So we've got 70-year-old people consulting with us, and we've got 18-year-old people building products and everything in between. So Finja is a Pakistani fintech, and anything that it can do to spur innovation, to play our role, we are there. So जब मर्जी आओ और हमारे साथ interact करो, जो सवाल हैं, जो चीजें, everything is open.
Thank you for that. Look, thanks for the compliment. And I see it's a team effort. Everyone's super passionate and committed. I've yet to come across a better group of folks who just needed a little bit of direction and guidance. So that's what I'm doing. But they do all the work. So kudos to them. And thank you for sharing how you manage your team and your business. And for the open doors that you have enabled. So we'll definitely take you up on that offer, and we'll work with you and your team to make that a priority for us to, for our people to benefit from. So thank you again. On that note, Allah Hafiz, and I'll call you later to find out what the desis eat, so I can stand on my two legs and not.
Thank you, thank you, Saima. Thanks, everyone.
Take care, bro.
Bye.
Bye.